Hello and welcome to another session of Mindful Data Mine. In today's session, we will be discussing about a procedure which helps in sorting the data known as Proc sort, and we will also discuss the first dot and last dot concept which is used in SAS. So without wasting any time, let's move with the practicals. So for today's session, I have created some data for you. So assuming that we have this sample data of employees in which in one tab I have employees details like employee ID, first name, last name and date of birth, and then in the second tab I have employee designation with employee ID and designation details. If you see over here, there is one employee who was first a recruiter, then senior recruiter, then he became lead recruiter. So these are kind of duplicate values. Okay, so first what I'll do is I'll upload this sample data into my SAS Studio and then we'll start with the coding part. Okay, so to create a data set out of Excel file, we need to use proc import first, followed by the data file name. Okay, and I'll pass the location of the data file. Next is dbms, which is Excel SX for this, and out will be emp data replace run. Okay, since there are two different tabs, so we will need to pass the sheet name as well. So for the first sheet, name is employee details. Okay, and I'll just copy the same code and update the sheet name for employee designation. And I'll update out to empts so that I can get two different data set. Now I'll run this and let's see the result first. So we got the employee data with 10 records. That's what we are expecting. Okay. And on the other side, we have employee designation 12 records. That's what the expectation is. Now we have the data set. Now, whenever we want to sort any data in SAS, we use a procedure named as proc sort. So after proc sort, it looks for a data set name. So assuming we want to sort employee data first, okay, and we want to sort it by, let's say, employee ID. Okay, so I'll write employee ID here and I'll simply use run. Okay, now when we'll run it, so my data should be sorted in ascending order by employee ID. Okay, so when I'll run this, if you see my employee data is sorted by employee ID now, we are getting 16, then 17, 18, 19. Okay, but if you notice carefully, when we run this, it sorted the data in the original data set, that is employee data. Okay, because here if you see it's the same data set, but in case if you want or you have a requirement where you do not want to sort the original data set but you want the sorted data in a new data set, then what we can do is first I'll just import this again, okay, so that we get the unsorted data. So in that situation, what we can do is we can simply use out here. With the out option, SAS gives us the functionality to export the sorted data in some other new data set. So I'll name it as s underscore emp underscore data, where s signifies it's sorted. Okay, by default, SAS sorts the data in ascending order. In case if we want to sort it in descending, so we'll need to write descending in front of the variable name. Okay, now when I'll run this one, so I should get a new data set s underscore emp underscore data, which will be sorted. And if I'll see the existing data set from libraries, okay, so this one should be kept as it is. See, it's not sorted at all. But here s underscore emp underscore data is sorted. Now let's assume that we have a requirement that we want to sort the data by employee ID in ascending order and maybe by first name in descending order, so we can use it like this. Okay, first name in descending, and maybe I'll put it as name 1. Now when I'll run it, a new dataset will be created where we have employee name in ascending, sorry, employee ID in ascending order and name in descending order. Okay, moving on further, then in SAS for proc sort, it also provides us a functionality. Apart from sorting the data, it can remove duplicates. So for example, if you recall in my employee designation, I have these two records as duplicate, right? Now, in case if we want to remove duplicate records using proc sort, what we can do is I'll just copy the same thing first. Okay, and this time I'll use employee designation instead of employee data, and same thing I'll update here. Okay, and assuming that I want to remove duplicate based on employee ID, so I need to use here no dup key. Now when we use no dup key, what it will look for, it will look for the key variables. By key variables, I meant to say whatever we have in the by statement. It will look for all those variable, and if it finds anything duplicate, it will remove all those records. So by duplicate, it means it will check for the first occurrence. So this is the first occurrence. It will keep this record and it will remove these two records. Let's run this and check the results. So if you see, now we are getting only 10 records, and for this record 18, 15, 896, 18, 15, 896, we are only getting recruiter. We are not getting senior recruiter or lead recruiter. Okay. And what if, because right now these two items are completely deleted, but in case we have a requirement that we want to keep the duplicate records as well, so in that case what we can simply do is we can use dup out. So dup out option gives us the functionality to keep the duplicate records. Okay, let's assume I'll keep it as d underscore emp underscore des for duplicate employee designation. Okay, now when I'll run this, I should get two records in d underscore emp underscore desc. Okay, so these are the remaining two records which are duplicate in nature. Apart from this, in case if we have a requirement, okay, if the entire row is duplicate, okay, then you need to delete it. In that case, we will use no dup instead of no dup key. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll mark this as s underscore emp underscore dsc1, and for duplicate I'll again mark it as 1, and I'll use no dup. Although this is not recommended because it will remove the entire line and it would not check any of the key variables. Okay, and in case if you read here as well, this option has been removed from SAS 9.4 documentation considering using no dup key option instead. That's why I'm saying it's not recommended. Okay, but this will remove the entire row if it is duplicate. Now since we do not have any duplicate records, therefore we should get all the 12 records in the SEMP des, and in duplicate we will get 0 records. Okay, now what if we have a condition that okay, we want to retain the third one. Okay, we do not want to keep this first record, but we want to keep the third record, or we want to keep maybe the second record. So all such cases, first dot and last dot concept comes into handy. Okay, so if you see, okay, when we run this proc sort in the backend, SAS create two automatic binary variable known as first dot and last dot. I'm saying this as automatic because they are created at the backend automatically. We need not to create them. Okay, and they are binary because they have only 0 or 1 as the value. So what's first dot and last dot? So what I'll do is first I'll run a data set in which we are not doing anything except creating the new data set. Okay, so I'll use this one for reference purpose and I'll update the data set to emp underscore dsc so that we can get all the 12 records without removing duplicates. Now when I'll run this, I'll get 12 records, okay, which are sorted, and these are my 3 duplicate records. Now here at present SAS has created few automatic variables, but we won't be able to see it here. To see it, we need to use data step. Let's assume we are creating a new data step A in which I'll use my existing sorted data set s underscore emp underscore des. Okay, and when you do like this, we need to use by as well, by employee ID, and maybe I'll use F for first dot. I'll mention first dot employee ID and L for last dot employee ID. Okay, now when I'll run it, you will see some Boolean variables in F and L. You see we are getting Boolean variable as 1 and 0. So in case, so what it generally signifies, if any row, like if the employee ID, which is the key variable for this particular data set, if there exists only one row, then your first dot will be 1 and last dot will be 1. Okay, and in case if there are multiple records for any particular key variable, for example for this there are 3 records, so this variable first dot will be set to 1 for the first record and last dot will be set to 0. And for the last record, last dot will be set to 1 and first dot will be set to 0. And the records which are in between the two will remain 0 as it is. So basically first dot will set to 1 for first record and last dot will set to 1 for the last record. And now if we want to get the last record, then what we can simply do is we can select, or we can do it something like this. Okay, and here I'll use if last dot employee ID. Now when I'll use this and run it, this will give me the last record. Now we are getting the lead recruiter for 1815896. Earlier we are getting this record. Okay. Similarly, what if we have multiple records and we are asked to pick the second record, or maybe the third record, or maybe the fourth record? So in all such cases, what we can do is we can simply write a data step, something like this, where we will count all the records based on employee ID. So we'll group the records based on employee ID. And when we get a group with more than one record, we will get 1, 2, 3 serial number for those records. Okay, so here what I'll do is I'll write if first dot employee ID, then count equals to 1, that is for first record, set the counter to 1, else count plus 1. Otherwise, add 1 to the count. So when we say otherwise, it will read for second, third, fourth record and so on. And when it will get first dot employee ID again, it will set it to 1. Okay. And now if I want to select the second record, I can simply mention if count equals to 2. In that case, it will select all the second records. Now, if I'll run this, so we are getting 1 for these records. And when we have more than one record, we are getting 1, 2, 3. Now we can select, okay, if it is 1, then select all the records. If it is 2, select, it will be selected like this is the record which is selected. So this is how we can use first dot and last dot, and also how we can sort out the data using proc sort in SAS. Please let me know in comment section if you have any queries related to this topic. I'll see you in the next session. Thank you.